8 decades, hundreds of witnesses, same black suits, same pale faces, same warning. Forget what you saw. Well, tonight, we're not forgetting anything.
Hey guys, welcome back to Bumpin' the Mic. Here tonight, we are going to talk about aliens and just how much our government knows. And
Yeah,
Gregory, I think you're going to start it off.
well, we all know stories, or certainly have seen the movies, right, about the men in black, like the government agents that are there to keep the existence of extraterrestrial life a secret to all mankind. But tonight, we're not talking about Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith fighting all these beings to save the galaxy. We're fighting to tell our truth about the real stories where these men have showed up and possible explanations for who they are, what they are, and just some stories that tie into that. And it's interesting to talk about this type of stuff because for so long, like the concept of aliens and extraterrestrials in general has been just all conspiracies and like crazy talk. And that guy that lives out there by the river, and you don't talk to him about Roswell, he'll talk your ear off. You know, he said he was abducted 40 years ago. But now we look back at like 2020, 2021 during the COVID era when the Pentagon is holding briefings in front of Congress admitting that aliens exist. They've known about them. They've captured crafts manned by them. And they, by the way, they live in the oceans and don't worry about it. And no one cared. No one cared.
Oh, yeah, I did think it was crazy because they even released a video of it. Like they had videos of fighter pilots going after these objects, and they're describing it as they go. They're saying like no visible means of propulsion. We are not able to keep pace with it. And they're saying it's maneuvering in ways that, to our knowledge, is completely defying physics. So, I mean, unless like another country that's currently stealing our technology over the like cyber intrusions in the web, and unless they have something that we can't even fathom, I mean, these things have to come from somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a technology there that we just, like you said, can't fathom or just can't wrap our minds around because we haven't like discovered the elements that, you know, act as propulsion for these things, or we just don't know enough about it. Right. But when we're talking about secret government agencies, right, and the men in black that were there, don't know if they still are now that the Pentagon has said what it says, but they used to be there to keep this stuff quiet. And are they government agents or are they aliens themselves just trying to keep their own existence a secret? Let's dive into it. So the very first documented case that we could find of the men in black comes out of the Puget Sound in Washington, and it's way back in 1947. We're going to talk about Harold Dahl. He was a harbor patrolman who claimed he was out on the water with his son and dog one day when he saw 6 massive circular craft hovering over the water. And then all of a sudden, one of the craft began spewing molten metal or slag from underneath it. Pieces of the stuff rained down on top of Harold's boat, burning his son's arm, killing his dog, and damaging his boat. Now, he reported what happened to his supervisor, who later claimed he also saw one of these craft because they needed, you know, some record of this happening. No one could believe it. After Harold filed his report, but before any of the investigating agencies or even the military could arrive, because the Air Force was interested, obviously, Harold saw a man in a dark suit visit him in his office and invite him to breakfast in a local diner. This man allegedly knew what Harold had seen, including details he hadn't shared. He warned him that bad things would happen if he kept talking about it, and suggested that he never report this sighting again. But according to Harold, this man talked about this incident as if he had been there during it. And this is the first known report that we have of a mysterious man in a dark suit appearing after a UFO incident. Now, the FBI eventually investigated this and ruled that this entire case was a hoax perpetuated by Harold in an attempt to, get paid off for damages to his boat. But that Men in Black seed became sort of this giant mythology out of this incident that eventually blew up into what we know it as today.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just goes into like who you trust. I mean, if you trust, can you trust the government? Like, of course, if they're trying to cover something up, of course they're gonna say like, "Oh, he's lying. It's a hoax. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Like, I don't know. It's very interesting because I mean, you can find the Men in Black cases all the way up until I think one of the most recent ones I saw was 2008, and that was at the Sheraton Hotel there in Niagara Falls, and it was actually a security guard and a manager that worked at that hotel, and they saw what they said was a like triangular looking UFO, and I think they saw it 2 days in a row, and I think it was like 2 weeks after that, these Men in Black came in, and it was reported that they had extremely pale skin, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and large eyes. And they talked to a receptionist that was in there. They talked to the hotel manager and they talked to the security guard. And each person said that they felt unwell when they were around them, that the air was somehow felt off, different. And some people even reported that when talking to the men, like they felt like those men knew what they were thinking. That they would even ask questions based off of thoughts that they had in their head, and that they were very, very familiar with the incident. And the craziest part about this one is that security guard and the manager that had seen it, they hadn't told anyone. They hadn't told anyone other than talked about it amongst themselves. So, how did these guys even find out? If I don't know if they're government, if they're alien. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that case in particular is we actually have still images from the security camera footage in that hotel showing these men walk in. I'll share it here so we can kind of take a look at it. And it's a small image and it's super pixelated because it's like 2008, right? Which seems like it was yesterday, but it was like, 15, 16 years ago. Anyway, these gentlemen in the picture, this is them walking into the lobby to confront these men about what they saw and apparently tell them, don't talk about it or else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they, black suits, black hats, pale skin. That's a theme that we'll see develop as we continue talking about these individuals. But it's interesting in this case that we at least have a picture of what these particular ones look like.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. And I mean, there's actually a couple confirmed cases where it's certainly looks like a cover up. I was going to actually get into one case of like a government cover up that was very well reported. If you've heard of the Cash Landrum UFO incident, it's actually there were three people. There were two women and a child. So this one took place in December of 1980. And let me get the names right here. The names were Betty Cash, Vicky Landrum, and Vicky's grandson Colby. And they were actually driving down a road in Texas. And at a certain point, they're driving and they see an object up ahead of them. And they're looking at it, and it looks, I believe they said it was like diamond shaped, and it was hovering over the road. And they could see fire coming out of the bottom of it, some kind of flame, some kind of energy. And it's hovering right over the road. So this flame is hitting the road, and they stop and they're like, what is this thing? They decide, well, let's get out. Let's just get a little closer, see if we can actually make out what this is. Now, Vicky's grandson, Colby, he's scared. He wants to stay in the car. So he gets down behind a seat and he doesn't want anything to do with it. So Betty and Vicky, they actually get out and they start approaching this craft. Eventually, Vicky's thinking, okay, can't leave my grandson back there. He's scared in the car. I'm going to head back. So she turns around, goes back, gets back in the car to comfort Colby. However, Betty pushes on towards the craft. And as she gets closer, she's reporting just extreme heat coming off of this thing that you can feel. And finally, the craft starts to raise up off the road. And she said military craft, like helicopters or something of that nature, come up next to this vehicle. And then the unknown vehicle and the military helicopters all take off in the same direction and disappear over the tree line. Now, the next day, they are all sick. Colby, he's not too sick, but he's not feeling well. Vicky is feeling very unwell, and she tries to get a hold of Betty to see if Betty's okay. Betty's not answering. They can't get a hold of her, so she actually decides to go to her house. And when she gets there, Betty is bedbound. She can't even move. And it would turn out that they go to the doctor and they're being examined. All three of them have radiation poisoning. And depending on who got the closest, so Betty got the closest. She approached farther, stayed out of the car longer. She got the worst of it. Vicky, who turned around and went back to the car, was pretty sick, but not as bad as Betty. And Colby, who stayed in the car, was lightly sick, but not bad. So they actually started reporting this to the government, what they saw, this and that, and it drew the attention of a UFO investigator who came out and began trying to figure out what was going on. He went out to the road, and sure enough, where they said this took place, there's a massive burn mark on this section of the road, right where they said it was hovering. So he starts going around to all the houses in the area and asking if people saw anything, and a lot of people said, yeah, they did. They saw something hovering over there. They didn't know what it was. They couldn't explain it. So this guy actually reaches out to the local military base. And he says, hey, was there a training exercise? Was there anything going on? This was reported. This is what they saw. They saw military-looking helicopters along with it. The commander there at the base said, no, absolutely not. Nothing took place in the area. We didn't have any exercises going on. Nothing happened. That's the end of it. So the investigator's like, oh, okay. Kind of back to square one. So he goes home, and the next day he gets a call from one of the people that he interviewed. And they told him there is an entire work crew out at that road that you were asking us questions about. So the investigator gets up, he heads out there, and when he gets there, the entire area is blocked off. Black SUVs, and an entire work crew, and they've actually torn up and replaced that entire section of the road. And I guess at that point you kind of know somebody knew something, but you are not supposed to.
Right. And that again feeds into like, what does the government know that they're not telling us? Because you got a military commander who certainly would know about helicopters operating in his area, denying anything. And then almost immediately this thing's getting patched up by, shady black SUVs and undescript road crews. So I don't know, like that's crazy. And it's tragic for that family getting radiation burns and experiencing that and being left with zero answers about what happened there. It'd be incredibly frustrating to have to deal with that after getting radiation burned by a flying saucer and then being told you're crazy because you didn't see what you thought you saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
so
nuts.
it's just
like
layers of secrecy on this stuff. And how long ago was that?
This occurred in the 80s.
Yeah.
December 29th, 1980. And they actually, from what I'm finding here, they actually said that this case of radiation poisoning was comparable to being 3 to 5 miles from the epicenter of Hiroshima.
Jeez. Yeah. So absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And they described helicopters in detail. These, this is a child and 2 women. They probably don't care too much about military stuff and looking into it. Plus, it's the 80s. They're not just on the computer all the time, but they described in detail um, what would have been the Boeing Chinooks helicopters. So,
Mm.
and at the time, this saying those were both used by the Army and the Marines, and they described them pretty much to a T.
Right. Like something went down there, and you don't just get radiation driving down the highway without experiencing something to have caused it. Right. So, I mean, that can lead into theories in like propulsion systems and like what's going on. Was this a UFO piloted by extraterrestrials? Was it some experimental military craft that got out of hand? Who knows? Right. But
Yeah.
like the focus here is that everybody involved was told nothing happened. Stop asking questions. Right.
hmm And like I would have like I would have back in the day thought like maybe this is a test of something that got out of hand and they're like, oh, somebody got hurt. We're gonna deny everything because we can't let this get out. But as we go on and we like we were talking about the stuff that's being said now and the things that are coming forward, I kind of start to question um, if it wasn't something extraterrestrial.
Yeah. I mean, did Doge kill the Men in Black department? Like, is that why they're just releasing all this stuff now? They just
Yeah.
lost their funding. Um, but like, you can't talk about the Men in Black without talking about Albert Bender, right? So this is kind of the foundational Men in Black origin story. So if you don't know who Albert Bender was, in the late 40s, early 50s, he was this huge, like UFO extraterrestrial researcher. Okay, he founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau, which was a semi-professional but mostly amateur, like research society dedicated to uncovering conspiracies, finding out about UFOs, interviewing witnesses of saucers and things of that nature. He's also the publisher of the Space Review, which is one of the earliest UFO research journals. He was basically obsessed with finding the truth and getting it out to, the laymen and women out there. But in 1953, Bender claimed that he had uncovered something massive about flying saucers' origins. Shortly after that, he said that three men dressed identically in black suits and hats appeared in his home. Their presence was described as accompanied by the smell of sulfur. They were physically overwhelming, inciting dizziness in him, emotionally paralyzing, and not quite human were his exact words. In fact, he said that they spoke to him telepathically, not using verbal spoken language. And according to Bender, they told him, "You've seen too much and you will stop your research." Within days, Bender shut down his International Flying Saucer Bureau. He ceased all of his research and he published a final issue of his magazine explaining that it was all shutting down and he couldn't explain why. He stayed quiet for almost a decade on this stuff. And then in 1962, he wrote Flying Saucers and the Three Men, which laid out all the key details about what I just talked about. But the significance is it's kind of the birthplace of the modern, like Men in Black archetype, with the black suits, the intimidating qualities, and then the sudden silencing of researchers and apparent truth surrounding these things. Everything after this almost echoes Bender's encounter in regards to, how these people or things functioned and what they looked like and did. Um, it's interesting when you look at his account of it because he's talking about telepathy. He's talking about an altered presence, and things that, in his own words, are not quite human. So that makes you wonder if we take his story with 100% truth, are these government agents that have been susceptible to some kind of testing or modification, or are these aliens themselves trying to hide their own presence from us by masquerading as humans?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder. And there's actually I haven't watched it yet, but I'm actually interested in checking it out. There's a new documentary on Amazon Prime, I believe, and I'll actually get the name of it. But in it, they have they're interviewing people from like commanders of military bases, commanders of like different kinds of programs that oversaw crazy stuff, and it goes all the way up. They even interview like Marco Rubio and stuff, and all these like really high up people in the government, in the military. And when they're interviewing them, some of the stuff I even saw in the trailer, these guys are saying, yeah, we've had contact with aliens. One guy was even telling a story about a craft that landed on a base, and he actually said he made contact with non-human life form that came out of the craft. So it makes you wonder
Yeah, it's
if they've been here for longer than we
yeah, and
think.
these are people. Yeah, and these are people testifying in front of Congress under oath, right? In front of the American people, really. It's all public now. You can go up and look up any of this stuff, and to see the things that they're talking about is frankly incredibly astonishing. Most recently, they've come out and said that yes, aliens are real, but they don't come from outer space. They actually live in the oceans, which is why we get so many of these sightings from like fighter pilots doing offshore maneuvers. And we get the video footage from their cockpit cams showing things emerging from the water, moving at incredible speeds and velocities, disobeying the laws of physics, and then returning to the water.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of theories point towards like, the lost city of Atlantis. What if that place is real and these things are actually, inhabitants of Atlantis? I don't know. Or have aliens landed on our planet without us knowing, established some aquatic culture under the waves where we can't detect them, but they can still detect us as part of like a study, a scouting mission? Who knows? But the fact that they're here and apparently have been for some time it gives you some pause.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I actually watched a military guy doing an interview on it was some podcast. I can't remember what it was, but he was talking about how like when we get ready to go to war, we're gonna get in there, we're going to stay as low key as possible, and we're gonna start doing reconnaissance. Now, if they're coming from a whole nother galaxy, they want to start doing reconnaissance for whatever reason, they're going to want to stay hidden. I'm sure they have like cloaking stuff and all this, but if they have the ability to move from space down into the ocean, what better place to hide than way down under the ocean? I mean, that's kind of the last place anyone's going to look. Like we see the sky every night, but we
Well,
don't
it's the
see
last
the
place
ocean
we
floor.
can look.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like we know more about outer space generally than we do our own ocean floor because we can't get sensors or craft or anything down that deep without being crushed by, the pressure of the water, or it's just too dark. Like we don't know what's at the bottom of the ocean. And that'd be a great place to hang out if I was trying to remain unseen.
Well, yeah, and I actually heard another theory that was interesting. They were saying that with these craft, how it's moving where it defies physics. So they said they have on like videos and stuff. These craft will be traveling and they'll turn at an instantaneous 90-degree angle. They're just moving now, like it, and they're saying even when they go underwater, they said one theory they have is that if these aliens are like or non-human entities are so far advanced that they're in some way interdimensional, or they can operate in a dimension that we can't fathom because we're only three-dimensional, then they might be able to do that stuff, and that would start to make sense how maybe when they change dimensions that ocean isn't there. Maybe it's it's
Right. Yep.
there's a lot of interesting theories out there.
Yeah, you talk about wormholes, and we can get crazy theoretically, physics about this, but like, folding space on top of each other in order to, transport a great distance in no time at all. Like those are things that we're working on now on the theoretical level that maybe something out there has mastered a long time ago.
I figured they would too. If they can get here, they probably know a lot more than we do because we're still working on getting to Mars.
Yeah, to think that Yeah, because if we think that we're alone in the universe, that's completely ignorant. Like the fact that we exist proves that something else exists. If the universe is truly infinite, which we believe it is, right? The fact that we're here means that there are other things out there too.
Mhm.
And if we think that we're the smartest things out in this big black expanse, then that's about the most ignorant thing you can possibly think of, right?
Yeah, and that's actually one theory that I really like to always read about is the dark forest theory. If you're familiar with it, are you?
No, mm-mm.
It's pretty interesting. It's kind of like
No,
scary too because the basically what they're saying is we release like a crazy amount of radio waves. We're constantly sending stuff out. Like we're so visible. And they're saying, why can't we see anything else when we look out there? And the theory is just like a dark forest, animals learn that there are super predatory things out there. So maybe the reason we don't see any signs of other life out in the galaxy is because those other civilizations have learned that you either be extremely quiet or you die.
right. And I have heard that. I just hadn't heard it explained in the Dark Forest anthology, but it makes sense. And then it makes you wonder if these things are like these other beings that are trying to stay quiet are sensing us. Like, what do they think? Are they like, look at those idiots way over there? Don't they know they got to shut up? Or are they like, holy shit, those guys don't care? Like, what do they have up their sleeve?
That actually, like, that might be it. Maybe that's
So,
why they're coming to check it out. Like, send that guy in his like one metal spacecraft and see if he gets blasted out of the air. So everybody reports it like flying. He goes back. He's like, they didn't kill me. They didn't kill me. Like maybe they're friendly. Like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
right.
interesting to think about.
Or the ones that we have captured, right? They never go back. And that species is like, all right, we're leaving Earth alone because they're fucking nuts over
Yeah,
there.
God knows what they did with them. They probably ate our guys for sure. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But
Yeah, 100%. But
I figured another we talked about like some convincing stories. I know we're running on here for a bit, so I figured I would start closing this up with another very convincing UFO case that I found super interesting. Um, this one's out of Canada, and his name was Stephen McCulloch, and he actually was an amateur geologist. He liked he liked going out and just chiseling into rock. Mostly, he liked looking for gold and quartz. And one day, that's what he was doing. He went out deep, deep into the Canadian forest. So he actually had to like bus out there, try to find a place to stay the night, and then hike his way up, way into the forest. And he found a nice flat, and he started chiseling, trying to find something, a nice quartz vein, whatever. When all of a sudden he looked up and he sees two craft hovering, and apparently they were glowing, different colors. They were silver, whatever different colors they transitioned into, but it was very strange to him. And then one of them took off, and the second one actually lowered down fairly close to him. And he thought maybe this is a military craft, maybe something's happening. And he's like, well, let me go check and see if they need help. So he walked over there to offer any mechanical help he could. And when he got there, he started walking around the craft and he noticed that there was a door on the side of the craft that was open. And as he approached it, there was a bright light coming out of this craft. And he was trying to look inside, but he really couldn't. However, he could hear two muffled voices. He could not make out the language. He said it sounded completely foreign to him, and he actually knew several languages. But as he's listening, he actually then tried to call out to them to offer them some kind of help. And as soon as he did, the voices stopped, the door closes, and the craft, which he said was cigar shaped, started to rotate. And when it got to the one of the elongated sides, he noticed a vent looking thing that apparently looked like uh, a Connect Four board is the best way when he drew it out how it looked. And when it approached him, all of a sudden something blasted out of there and threw him back. Now, that craft took off. It was gone. But he is writhing in pain. He feels like he is on fire. And it melted the glove on his hand, melted his clothes. and left that Connect 4 board burn on his chest. This guy is in extreme pain. So this is a complete credit to this guy. He gets up, knows there's absolutely no help in this small town. So he gets up, he casually goes back, gets back on a bus, takes the bus all the way home, contacts his wife, and then goes to the hospital. He gets to the hospital and he's honestly, he doesn't want to tell them what happened because he's like, nobody's going to believe me. So he tells them, oh, I got burned, makes up a story, and they're looking at it. They start trying to figure out what possibly could have caused this burn. And they checked for everything. They're like, this is not caused by fire, heat. They thought maybe chemical. So they start looking into that. It's not a chemical burn. And they end up finding out that he, in fact, has a radiation burn. He has radiation poison. They're saying that they confirmed he got blasted with gamma rays that basically went through his body and began to break down his tissue. And he finally, when he's being questioned, tells them what happened, tells them his story. And they're like, based on this style of burn, the pattern, everything, they're like, we cannot come up with anything that would have left this kind of injury. So they actually go back to the place with him. He goes back and they find exactly where he said it happened. And they find his charred shirt, melted gloves. They find his things. And they confirm that although he is not irradiated, his body is suffering from radiation sickness. However, his shirt, gloves, the items he had on him when he was there are irradiated, and there's irradiation in the ground where he said the craft actually landed. Now, other than the fact that they can't explain this, one thing that always made this story more real was he didn't want to tell it to begin with, and after he did, he wanted no fame that came from it. He didn't want to do interviews. He didn't want to tell the story anymore. He wanted to let it go. And when he would get pressed on it, his story never changed. Up until the time he died in 1999, his story stayed exactly the same. And he never made a cent off of it. Never tried to make a dime, wanted nothing to do with it. So why go out and lie if you don't want the press, if you don't want the money? And on top of that, if you're going to lie, how do you fake a Connect 4 board radiation burn on your chest?
Yeah, to fake that would cost you more money than you would ever make out of the story, right?
Absolutely.
Like to obtain an item that would produce that much radiation to physically burn you after a short exposure, relatively short exposure like that. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. So that's another one that I thought was one of the most interesting and or convincing I've heard.
Yeah, that poor guy. And it's not even like we're trying to convince anybody anymore. Not us like me and you, but us just as a society, because it's out there. Like
Yeah.
.gov themselves have said they're out there. Here's the info. Enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
like
it's
how there's
yeah.
not more people going crazy about this is frankly making me crazy. Because like I want to tell everybody I see, what do you think about these aliens? And they still think I'm a conspiracy guy. Like insane.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The government's like, oh yeah, there's aliens. They're like, no, that's crazy. Like, no, we literally have them. Like, no. Nah.
Listen louder, people. All right. Like
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure yeah, if you like how many witnesses does it take seeing something in a court before they're like, yeah, this guy did it? And now you have how many people throughout the years past saying like, yeah, I saw him. Yep, I saw the craft. Yeah, I saw this. Now the government's straight up like, yeah, they're there. Here's a literal video of us chasing a UFO. And some people are like, I don't know. I don't think they're out there.
yeah. I mean, ultimately, people are going to believe what they want to believe, and it's just our job to put, facts and evidence in front of them to hopefully sway their belief in the side of the truth. But as we know how people are, like it doesn't matter if something's true or not. If they've got a strong enough conviction, they're going to believe whatever they want to believe, which is fine. That's totally up to them, and that's one of the things
It's
that's great is you can have differing opinions. It's fine, but
yeah, it's
the
crazy.
evidence is there.
Can you actually bring up the picture because it's out there? There's a whole video, but we don't have time to play that. But can you bring up the picture of um the actual camera from the jet that captured
Yeah,
the
you
craft
talking about the
recently?
David Fravor
Possibly because
UFO?
I've noticed it throughout all this. The story I just told about Stephen and throughout history, and then what we've seen now on these naval jets cameras, it's pretty much always the same. It's a metallic cigar shaped, and then there's also the triangular shaped. Like there, it's always people aren't making up crazy stuff. It's always the same shapes, the same style, the same descriptions.
Yeah. So this image was that David Fravor encounter.
Is
He
that
was a
the
Navy
recent?
pilot that. Yeah, it was 2004.
I think there's a more recent one here. Let me check.
Now, there was one literally a couple months ago where they fired a Hellfire missile at a UFO and it bounced off of it. And they played this footage in Congress to show everybody. Like maybe I'll just, if I can find a short one here, let me see if I can find the Hellfire. Yeah, they literally fire a Hellfire missile, one of our best missiles at these things, and it just bounces off. Yeah, so this is off the coast of Yemen. I'll pull up the video. This is from ABC7's YouTube channel. So it'll be their audio. But yeah, let's look at this here real quick. Yeah, it's freaking wild.
Yeah, I just found another picture I was gonna send you so you could put up there. I just don't know where I saved it to. There we go. Hold on.
But yeah, the footage and the stories are out there. Like this, the one we just watched, it's from September of this year, 2025. They're still talking about it. So a lot of this stuff is old and new, and I can't imagine to be like one of those guys in the 60s or 70s that was telling all these people that he got abducted and he'd seen UFOs and they gave crop circles in his yard and everybody's calling him some loon job. And now to have all this happen, like I'd be furious. Like I
Yeah.
told you, I told you.
Let me see here. I'm trying to send you another one that's pretty clear. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, if you just tell me what to look up, I can just pull it up here.
I might have to do that if I can't send it this time. I'm gonna try one more time here. Um, and yeah, you should actually have it. I just sent it to you. That'll make it
Take a
easier to
look
bring it
here.
up.
Yeah, but I mean, these things have been talked about, with Navy pilots because they operate over the water, right? So they've had videos of and this stuff surfacing since the 90s and then into the 2000s and now today, where these jets are chasing these things down, trying to get locks on them, trying to get whatever readings they can on them, and ultimately, like people just dismissed it. Yeah, I did receive that. So let me pull it up
Yeah, and
here.
it's crazy too, like what's going on. Some of these congressional hearings that you'll watch, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, they're also these craft are like routinely found hovering over our nuclear sites." There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. A lot of military evidence now.
Yeah, so I actually haven't seen this image. Can you tell me a little bit what's going on here?
Um, yeah. So this one was, I guess, a leaked government photo, and I'm seeing that it came out of I believe, it came out of Australia, where it was hovering next to U.S. fighter jets.
So that thing's just hovering. It's just still in the air,
Hmm.
and these jets are flying past it.
Yeah, and this one actually occurred in 2018. And it's a motionless, unidentified flying object. So it is just hovering, and the jets are moving, but this thing is not. And it's yeah, it was this was shared by U.S. defense personnel. Uh, yeah, that's actually a picture taken from a U.S. fighter jet.
Right. Yeah, I mean you can see it's very obviously in the backseat of the cockpit there. That is wild. Huh. I hadn't seen that one. That's about as clear as you can get, right? And it's just sitting there. But these jets are flying around it. No apparent means of propulsion. It looks fairly small. Like who knows what it is, right? The scale's hard to read on that because you don't know how far away they are. But
Right, and this one actually got this picture got leaked, but it was supposed to be included. It wasn't supposed to get leaked. It was supposed to be included in an intelligence report for the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force and the U.S. Department of Defense. But I
so
just
it's
figured
out
I'd
there,
share
folks.
it.
Like, yeah, do your research, come up with whatever conclusions you want to come up with. Um, but thanks for joining us here on this tangential visit into aliens and government conspiracies and the Men in Black. Now, if you see it, if you look really closely, you might be able to see the subscribe button next to this video. If you go ahead and abduct that thing for us, that'd be awesome. And then you like, subscribe, do all those good things. And appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
And if you've ever got a knock at a door from pale-faced men in black suits and they told you not to talk about it, we're telling you it's okay. We want you to talk about it. Hit us up in the comments. Hit us up in the email that's in the comments. Share your stories. We'll catch you next time.
Absolutely. And if you never hear from us again, it was probably this episode. See you guys.
You know why.